Chosen one, you were never meant to blend in. Your very existence was written before flesh clothed your spirit. You were designed in the mind of God with precision and purpose, not to be average, not to be ordinary, but to walk the earth with a presence that calls souls to stillness. While others were sculpted by culture and noise, you were shaped by the hush of divine breath, crafted in silence, born of fire, kissed by the light that burns behind the veil of the unseen. Every detail in you bears the fingerprint of the Creator. Your stance carries direction, not just posture. Your voice holds weight, not just sound. Even the way your eyes pause before speaking, there is design there. Intentionality. You are not put together by trend, by accident, or by the world's fragmented mirror. You are calibrated by eternity, engineered to remain steady when nations tremble. And that steadiness is not learned, it is remembered. It's the inheritance of one who walks in the rhythm of their true origin. The world may try to reduce you to image, to size, to charm, to volume, but you are not here to be consumed. You are here to anchor. You do not dance for applause, you walk for purpose. And when you step into a room, something ancient wakes in those around you. They don't know what they're feeling, but they feel safe, they feel seen, they feel redirected. Because when God designs a man to be a mirror of heaven's gravity, the earth responds, even if it doesn't know why. And so, chosen one, you do not need permission to exist in your fullness. Your beauty is not accidental, it is a language. Your posture is not arrogant, it is aligned. Your presence does not compete, it corrects. Because it is not merely appearance that defines you, it is the echo of the designer's intent within you. It's the way you carry destiny without boasting. It's the way your stillness teaches more than other men's speeches. You were made to remind the world what purpose looks like when it breathes through a man. You were designed not just to be seen, but to awaken. To draw eyes upward, not inward. To live not as a product of performance, but as a reflection of divine image. You are not chasing greatness, you are the result of it. You are not here to impress. You are here to illuminate what heaven still plants into men who do not bow to trend, who do not shrink in the presence of noise, who do not bend under shallow praise. You were designed to lead by example, not with volume but with value. And every time you show up fully, without apology, without shrinking, without craving, heaven nods, because you are not just alive, you are awake. And you are walking in the design written long before you were named. Chosen one, you were not born ordinary, you were born called. Before the world gave you labels, before culture pressed its expectations onto your skin, before the mirrors lied and the voices mocked, you were already known, already chosen, already sent. Not as a reaction to the world's chaos, but as a response to heaven's rhythm. You do not begin in flesh, you begin in fire, a flame whispered into existence by the voice that said, "Let there be light." Your origin is not lack, it is not need, it is not insecurity. Your origin is overflow. You were poured out from a well that never runs dry, formed in the quiet chambers of divine knowing, sculpted in silence where no fear could touch you. When others were searching for worth, you were birthed in it. You didn't learn how to walk in dignity, you came with it. It just took time for the world to catch up. There is nothing random about the pull others feel toward you. It's not just how you look, it's the echo they hear. It's the feeling of meeting someone they forgot they were praying to find. You carry the air of one who has walked with God in the desert, one who has lost things you never speak of but still walks in peace that silences confusion. Your presence is not the result of grooming, it's the result of growing through fire and not smelling like smoke. Others think you are confident because you win. They don't know your confidence was born in the years you lost and still showed up. That before people praised you, you learned how to hear God when no one answered your texts. Before women admired you, you learned how to master your own cravings. Before you became attractive, you became anchored. And that anchoring is what makes you magnetic, because your origin was not applause, it was altar. And now, the world sees the fruit, but not the roots. They see the glow, but not the graveyard of old identities you buried beneath your obedience. You didn't arrive here clean. You were carried through storms, through nights that shook your bones but couldn't touch your name. You are not confident because you think you deserve everything. You are confident because you remember who gave you everything you could never earn. Chosen one, when others search for answers in external things, you know your origin is internal alignment. You don't ask, "Who am I?" every week. You don't beg for a mirror to tell you what you carry. You walk in quiet assurance that you are not self-made, you are God-sent. That your roots go deeper than trauma, deeper than culture, deeper than performance. You are not just a man. You are a message from the divine, dressed in humility and fire. And that origin, it can't be copied. It can't be marketed. It can't be imitated. Because it was given, not gained. And every time you remember where you came from, you walk with the kind of strength that doesn't need to roar to be recognized. The world follows noise, but heaven always honors origin. And you, chosen one, are finally walking in yours. Chosen one, the difference is not your ambition, it is your alignment. You are not propelled by chaos, impulse, or noise. You do not move because others are sprinting. You move because your spirit bears witness to timing, and that witness is sacred. While others race to prove, you walk in stillness that declares, "I already know who I am." You are not in a rush to catch up. You are in rhythm with the God who goes before you, and that rhythm has become your protection. It is not your beauty that makes people stare, it is your peace, your refusal to react, your refusal to entertain drama, your refusal to chase validation in a world starving for applause. You are not detached, you are disciplined. You hear the noise, but you answer only to the voice that shaped you. That is alignment, and alignment is what makes you a threat. Because men with vision are dangerous, but men with vision and patience, they move nations without lifting their voices. You don't need to win every debate, you don't need to be tagged in every trend, you don't even need to be understood. Because you were not born to explain, you were born to embody. And that embodiment is loud enough. People may mock you for not chasing what they chase, but deep down they study your every step. They watch the way you don't flinch under pressure, the way you don't compromise for attention, the way you choose purpose over popularity, and they wonder how you make it look so easy. But you know it's not easy. You know the price. You know the mornings where obedience felt heavier than failure. You know the days when you had to walk away from what you wanted because it didn't match your assignment. And yet you walked anyway. Because when a man is aligned, his no is just as powerful as his yes. You've become the kind of man whose very silence tells the world what he stands for. Not because you said it, but because you live it. And that's why doors open for you without knocking. Why favor finds you without striving. Why people trust you without needing long explanations. Because alignment doesn't need marketing, it creates its own gravity. When you are aligned with heaven, earth must adjust. People may not always like it, but they will always respect it. Because what you carry cannot be faked, cannot be bought, and cannot be broken. It is forged in submission, and it is visible without performance. Chosen one, this is your power. Not in how much you do, but in how deeply you are anchored. You are not led by lust. You are not distracted by noise. You are not seduced by speed. You are governed by order. And that order flows from the throne of God straight into your daily discipline. You no longer need to become. You simply need to remain aligned. Because your alignment is already working on your behalf, building the kind of legacy that doesn't need introduction. It announces itself. Chosen one, there is a light that lives in you, and it does not flicker. It is not based on your emotions, your image, or your circumstances. It was placed in you before the world gave you mirrors. This glow is not decoration. It is evidence. Proof that something holy abides within you. A living confirmation that you have seen the inside of the fire and did not burn. A flame lit by the same hand that spoke galaxies into motion. Others try to copy the aesthetic, but they cannot touch the essence. Because glow is not a product, it is the fruit of surrender. You didn't earn this light by showing up perfect. You were given it because you showed up honest. Because you chose the narrow path when the wide one glittered. Because you chose to let go of what sparkled and reach for what saves. And now that choice shines out of your skin like a message from heaven. This one did not give up. It is the glow of self-mastery. Of mornings you woke up aching and still showed up. Of nights when temptation whispered lies and you answered with prayer. Of moments you could have retaliated, but chose stillness. This glow doesn't come from cameras, it comes from consecration. You were formed in secret, and now the secret is shining. Not loud, not wild, but steady. And there is nothing more rare than a man who glows from wholeness. Women see it and feel at peace. They don't understand it, but they trust it. It's not charm, it's character. Not seduction, but stability. You are not flirting with the world, you are leading it back to what is holy. And even those who mock your path will one day trace it with reverence. Because in a world obsessed with attraction, you have become magnetic. But not because you tried. Because you aligned your internal life with God's rhythm, and now creation recognizes you as family. And here's the most powerful truth. Your glow cannot be dimmed by envy, delay, or misunderstanding. Because it's not artificial, it's eternal. And those who try to put it out will only magnify it. Because you are not shining to be seen. You are shining to reveal something bigger than you. You are not the source, you are the lampstand. And what burns through you is testimony made flesh. People do not stare because you are flashy. They stare because your presence reminds them what they forgot they were looking for. So walk boldly now, not because you are flawless, but because you are lit from within. You have nothing to prove. You have everything to carry. This glow, it's not your brand. It's your banner. The quiet light of a man who said yes when it hurt, who forgave when it cost, and who kept going when it made no sense. And that kind of light can only come from God. You carry it well, chosen one. Let it burn. Chosen one, influence was never your goal, it was your consequence. You didn't chase attention, you cultivated depth. And depth has a way of echoing. You became influential not because of your reach, but because of your roots. Because while others built platforms, you built foundations. While they performed, you prepared. While they demanded to be followed, you learned how to follow God in secret. And now, without a campaign, without begging for notice, your steps carry weight. Every room you enter tilts, not because you speak first, but because your presence carries memory, the memory of discipline, pain, order, and grace. You have become a man others recalibrate themselves by. Men adjust their language when you walk in. Women feel safer, not because you've promised anything, but because they sense they don't need to perform around you. Your posture doesn't beg for attention, it restores honor. You are not loud, yet your quiet changes the atmosphere. Not because you are perfect, but because you are centered. You don't carry chaos, and so chaos retreats from your presence. You walk into confusion like a pillar walks into storm, steady, vertical, unbothered. And people who forgot peace remember it when they meet you. You have become the mirror. Others look at you and realize where they've drifted. They see your restraint and remember their potential. They hear your calm and begin to crave silence. You are not trying to fix anyone, but your discipline is contagious. Your influence is not about how many followers you have. It's about how many hearts are pierced just by watching you live. This is not charisma. It is not aesthetic. It is authority, and true authority never forces itself. It simply is. This is why the wise seek your counsel without asking for credentials. Why people open up to you in elevators, hallways, airports, as if they already knew your soul had space for them. You carry the energy of someone who has nothing to prove, and that kind of energy becomes a sanctuary. You are a living place of refuge, not because of what you say, but because of who you've let God make you in the silence of unseen seasons. The world is drawn to many things, but changed by very few. You, chosen one, are among those few, not because you force change, but because you are evidence that change is possible. You didn't get here through shortcuts, you bled your way here. And now, your scars sing more truth than some men's sermons. That's why your influence doesn't fade when the trend dies, because it wasn't built on trend, it was built on truth, and truth doesn't fade. Chosen one, your strength is undeniable, but it is your grace that leaves them speechless. It's not your power that shocks people, it's the way you wield it, with tenderness, with discretion, with honor. You are strong enough to destroy, yet you choose to restore. That choice, every single time, is what separates you. Because grace isn't weakness. Grace is governed power, and you have mastered the art of not needing to be harsh to be heard. People look at you and expect control, intensity, dominance. But what they find is a storm that has learned to kneel. You could command the room with your voice, but you choose to listen. You could correct everyone around you, but you choose to model instead. And in that choice lies the authority that most will never understand. Because anyone can shout, few can shape. And you shape not with pressure, but with presence. Women around you don't feel like they need to prove anything. They just breathe easier. Not because you're soft, but because you're safe. Because you don't consume, you cover. You don't manipulate emotions, you make space for them. You don't demand attention, you honor boundaries. This is the fruit of grace, the gift of a man who has wrestled with his power and chosen to steward it, not exploit it. This is why you are irresistible, not for your dominance, but for your restraint. Even your silence is laced with compassion. You speak less, yet say more. You correct without condemning. You bless without boasting. You forgive without needing an apology. And in a culture that confuses masculinity with aggression, your grace becomes prophetic. You don't have to convince anyone you are different. You show them through how gently you carry what others would use to intimidate. That is true power. That is divine masculinity. That is favor remembered in motion. And this grace, it flows from knowing that what you have isn't yours to flaunt. It was given, and what is given must be guarded. That's why you move with care. That's why your eyes speak before your words ever do. That's why your steps are slow, intentional, holy. Because you know what you carry is not just for you. It is for everyone watching you, hoping silently that someone like you actually exists. So walk with that grace, chosen one. Let it mark you. Let it soften your edges without dulling your sword. Let it continue to make you the kind of man whose power never needs to raise its voice, because its fruit speaks louder than force ever could. You have already become what many are still trying to define. You are grace with a spine. You are fire governed by heaven. And those who walk with you may not always understand it, but they will never forget how safe it felt to be near it. Chosen one, your life is not random. It is a response. You are not here by chance or whim. You are the fulfillment of promises whispered long before this era, long before your parents met, long before time clothed itself in language. You were called, not just to succeed, not just to glow, but to carry something sacred, something the world lost, something the heavens hid inside you because they trusted you not to cheapen it. You are not a reaction to culture, you are a correction to it. You are what happens when heaven sends a reminder of what a man should be. Your calling is not made of noise, fame, or shallow glory. It is made of weight, the kind of weight only the mature can carry. You were never supposed to feel light to the world. You were meant to feel true. That truth makes people pause. It makes the wrong ones uncomfortable and the right ones awakened. Because your calling is not to fit in, but to rearrange. You rearrange atmospheres. Rearrange mindsets, rearrange destinies simply by existing without compromise. This is why you never belonged. Why even in rooms where people smiled you felt apart. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God wasn't keeping you out, He was setting you apart. So that when your calling came to full bloom, no one could say it was built by flattery or networking. It was built in silence, in struggle, in seasons where no one saw the oil but God still poured. And that oil still drips from you, chosen one, not in flashes but in fragrance, the kind of scent only calling can leave behind. You are not called to everything. You are called to alignment, to move when God says move, to speak when silence is finished, to love when others harden, and to walk away when presence is no longer permission. Your calling is not only to build, it is also to discern. You see through masks, through intentions, through flattery, not to judge, but to guard what God has given you. Because when your calling is rare, your boundaries must be sacred. You don't have time to entertain confusion. You are not called to feed appetites. You are called to ignite identity. You were not sent to impress broken systems. You were sent to break patterns. You were not chosen to play small. You were chosen to walk in grace so immovable that people either repent or retreat when they meet you. That is your calling, to embody the kind of presence that reminds others they are not forgotten, but also not unaccountable. And so you walk with fire under your skin and wisdom in your gaze. You are no longer afraid of the call. You wear it now like breath. It doesn't have to shout. It just has to be. Because chosen one, your steps are not random. They are orchestrated, and the world will feel their rhythm long after you pass through. Chosen one, you are not here to build a reputation. You are here to build a legacy. Reputations live on lips, legacies live in souls. And yours will not be built by what you said, but by what you carried when no one clapped. By the nights you remained faithful while others quit. By the way you never made your brokenness someone else's burden. You were not born to pass through history unnoticed. You were born to mark it with presence, with honor, with a divine echo that lingers in rooms long after your body has moved on. Legacy isn't about monuments, it's about moments. The moment someone chooses patience because you showed them how to wait. The moment a father raises his child with tenderness because he saw your strength laced with grace. The moment a woman finally trusts again because you showed her love could exist without agenda. These are the fingerprints of your legacy, not written in stone, but in people. Not measured by praise, but by the fruit that grows after you've gone. And you, chosen one, are a man of legacy because you walk like one who knows where he's going. You are not perfect, but you are planted. Not flawless, but faithful. And that faithfulness is what generations will remember. Not the details of your face, not the height of your success, but the depth of your decisions. The silent ones, the costly ones. The ones you made when no one said thank you, but heaven kept score. Those decisions will birth men, shape families, rewrite stories. Your legacy isn't in what you keep, it's in what you give away. The peace that lingers when you leave the room, the integrity that convicts those who try to betray it, the quiet courage that teaches others to stand even when trembling. You don't lead by talking about legacy, you lead by living it. And that is why you cannot afford to compromise now. Too many souls are tethered to your example. Too many futures are silently watching how you handle pressure. Your legacy is not a someday, it is happening now. The world may offer platforms, applause, and speed, but you choose consistency, you choose depth, you choose love that outlasts lust, wisdom that outweighs trend, honor that refuses to disappear even when mocked. And these choices are not just building your life, they are sculpting your legend. Not for ego, not for vanity, but for every spirit that will one day whisper, because he stayed true, I found the strength to believe. So leave more than memories, leave momentum, leave order, leave light. Be the kind of man who walked through fire, and instead of complaining about the heat, built a path for others to follow through it. Your legacy is not what the world will say. It's what heaven will echo. And chosen one, heaven is already speaking your name with reverence. Chosen one, there is a line drawn in the spirit, and you no longer walk among the indistinguishable. You do not blend in with the crowd, no matter how still you stand. You carry a signature etched into your posture, a mark not of ink, but of identity. Others may wear crowns of ambition, but yours is the invisible mantle of obedience. You are not here to compete, you are here to contrast, and that contrast is felt more than it is seen. It does not need your words, it does not need your validation. It reveals itself in how the earth rearranges itself when you walk into the room. This distinction was not given because you were the loudest. It came because you were the most surrendered. When others sought shortcuts, you sought silence. When they pursued approval, you pursued assignment. That is why the oil flows on you. It cannot be replicated, bought, or mimicked. It is heaven's fingerprint, and it makes you unmistakable. You do not need to announce your presence. The atmosphere announces it for you. Even those who oppose you hesitate to act, not because of fear, but because deep down they feel the weight of something set apart. You are not just a man, they sense it. You are a mirror, a reckoning, a living line in the sand between the ordinary and the sacred. That is why you often walk alone, not because you're unloved, but because few are willing to walk at your pace. Yours is not the path of popularity, it is the path of principle. And principle always comes with pressure. But that pressure has made you holy. It has carved out your tone, your walk, your gaze. You see beyond masks now. You discern before others can define. You are not caught up in the moment. You are grounded in mission. And that mission doesn't require the world's permission. You answer to a higher order. You have not been built to impress. You've been built to intercede. To stand in places where no one else has the courage to remain. To hold standards when compromise is selling fast. To be the difference people are too afraid to name. That's why when you enter relationships, people feel safe or they flee. Your integrity calls them higher, or it convicts them deeper. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You are the reality check to those addicted to illusions. And even when they try to dismiss you, they return in moments of crisis, because something in them remembers that you do not shift with the season. You are anchored. You are sure. You are set apart, and you are no longer apologizing for that. Chosen one, the glory on your life is not ornamental, it is operational. It is not for decoration, it is for dominion. You were not crowned for aesthetics, you were anointed for war, but not war as the world defines it. This war is ancient. It is not a conflict of fists, but of presence. You fight not with noise, but with nearness to God. And the more you walk in alignment, the more your silence becomes louder than rebellion. You are not here to burn the world down. You are here to rebuild what others abandoned. This is why you feel the weight. Because you're not carrying your dreams. You're carrying divine architecture. Blueprints forged before you were born. Strategies etched in eternal ink. And every day you live in obedience, another layer of glory is added. Not glory that lifts you up, but glory that grounds you. The kind that doesn't just light your path, but lights paths for generations who will walk in your shadow without even knowing your name. The weight of glory means you don't get to move like others. You don't get to coast. You don't get to waste time. The oil on your life costs too much to be casual with your time, your touch, your thoughts. Your boundaries are not arrogance, they're stewardship. The people you love will not always understand it, but those boundaries are what protect the assignment. And your assignment is not just to succeed, it is to leave no crack for compromise to grow in the legacy you've been trusted to leave behind. You don't carry this weight because you're perfect. You carry it because you said yes when others said later. You carry it because when it hurt, you stayed. When it was silent, you still prayed. When it was unfair, you didn't retaliate. Heaven trusted you with burdens that would break other men. And still, you rise. Not because you're better, but because you were built different. Your back was carved for this. Your spirit reinforced by years of divine discipline. You are not heavy because you're burdened. You are heavy because you're full. So do not shrink now. Do not dim to be digestible. Do not explain to be accepted. The glory on your life knows where it's going, and you have been trained for this hour, not to blend, but to blaze. Your impact will not be measured in likes or applause. It will be measured in how many altars are rebuilt because you remained faithful. It will be measured in how many souls stepped out of hiding because your life made courage visible. You do not need to wait for the future. You are already walking in it. Every breath you take in obedience is another page in heaven's record. Every boundary you uphold is another root dug deep in legacy. You are no longer rising, you have risen. And now the question is not, will you shine? The question is, will you carry it until the end? Chosen one, you were made for this. Not just to shine, but to sustain. And the world will never be the same again. Chosen one, they never expected the one they'd call a heartbreaker would be the same man who held their soul so gently. They thought heartbreak came from betrayal, from selfishness, from cruelty, but your love was none of those things. Your love was awareness. It didn't scream, it didn't demand, it didn't try to control. It saw. It saw her wounds before she named them. It heard her silence when her voice couldn't form the words. You didn't love from the surface. You loved from a place that frightened her because it reached deeper than she had allowed anyone else to reach. And it awakened parts of her she had buried so long, they wept from the sudden sunlight. You didn't ask her to prove anything. That's what unraveled her. She was prepared for resistance. She was prepared for the chase. But she wasn't prepared for your stillness, for the way you didn't flinch when she faltered, the way you didn't correct her when she spilled her flaws like broken glass across your hands. You simply stayed, patient and unshaken, and that's what made her heart begin to tremble. She began to feel the difference between being wanted and being welcomed. And in your presence she was finally welcomed. Not for her beauty, not for her performance, but for her essence, for who she was before the world taught her to hide. And yet, this is why they call you Heartbreaker, because you were too much of the right thing at the wrong time. You arrived when she was still learning to see herself, and you saw her too clearly. That clarity became both a gift and a burden. A gift, because it reminded her of who she was underneath the noise. A burden because she couldn't unsee it after you left. Every love that comes after you must face the impossible task of meeting a standard you never spoke, but fully embodied. You didn't write poems about devotion, you became it. And in doing so, you made her realize just how long she had lived without that level of reverence. You didn't break her by leaving. You broke her by not needing to stay. Because your value didn't depend on proximity. Your power didn't shrink when you walked away. In fact, it only intensified. And that's what she couldn't process. That the most sacred connection she had ever touched didn't come with guarantees. It came with presence. You offered her presence without possession, depth without dependency,